Join JJ and Alex Monday from 3 to 6 for the Show Up for the Summer Service Fair at Thanksgiving Point. Learn more about it at showuputah.org. Joining us now, we're looking forward to this. This man has taken our community by storm. He is Kevin Young, the new BYU men's basketball coach. Coach, thanks for coming on this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
I was the guy who asked the first question of your press conference, last month, when you were speaking up there, and I asked you about your NBA dreams, and you said that you didn't have specifically dreams to be a head coach. I don't know if you remember that question at the NBA level. So I thought I'd follow it up by asking, when you got into coaching and as you progressed, what was the goal?
I mean, obviously being a head coach was the goal. I mean, coming up in the NBA, I mean, that was what I was aiming for, was trying to get to that point. But everything for me has always been just in line with my personal life as well, and the direction I want, my family's life and to go, and what I want that to look like. And that could have been in the NBA. It was for a long time, and very easily could have been as a head coach in terms of that combination of family life and work life. But when this opportunity came along, we felt like, it was just a seamless fit relative to the career as well as the family alignment. And ultimately that became the goal in short order.
I need to point out right now, I should have done it earlier, but I'll do it right now, that NCAA rules prohibit you from commenting on commitments. So we can't go in that direction, and we know there's been news out there. You can only speak on players who have literally signed and are in your program. So let's put that out right now, is that you're unable to comment on guys who've given you oral commitments. So you know that, but I want to make sure that our audience knows that, and if they're wondering why I don't ask about specific players. But with that in mind, you still have some opportunities to add to the roster, whatever you choose. What do you have in mind, knowing that you cannot get specific? So we're certainly not asking you to break any rules here.
No. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, when we came in, we looked at the roster and really liked the shooting, really liked the experience and the IQ of the team. We've sort of targeted, playmaking. We've targeted a scorer. We've targeted defense and athleticism, kind of across the board with all three of those things. You're looking kind of at a little bit more, size as well. So there's certain things that are attractive to adding to this group, and those areas are where we've spent the majority of our time trying to lock in on.
Do you feel like you have enough size to go forward in the Big 12?
As currently constituted, I do, actually. I'm not – I love the guys that we have, at the 5 spot. We're looking, at some different things, at some combination of like a 4 or 5 potentially. So feel good where we're at there, but getting a 4 has been a priority for us.
Coach Kevin Young, new BYU basketball coach, joining us. Last summer, and as we progressed into the fall, we had heard about that the team went on an overseas trip, and it really brought them together. We have Steve Cleveland. I used to be a beat writer for the Salt Lake Tribune way back when. I used to work for the Mesa Tribune, too, way back when. And the Casa Grande Dispatch, for that matter. That's where I got my start. I went to ASU. I'm an Arizona guy. And so when we had Coach Cleveland on, he would refer back when the team started to have success this past season, and it was somewhat of a surprise because they finished 5th in the West Coast Conference, and then they did really well in the rugged Big 12. And he would talk about, and others would talk about, one of the things that he thought really benefited them was that overseas trip that they went to and played, because it galvanized the team. You're not going to have that this year. You're new to them. They're new to you, all that stuff. How do you recreate that or simulate that to be able to bring the team with you and them together more quickly so that you're prepared once the season starts?
I think a big part of it was getting, Dallin and Richie to come back. I mean, they've been obviously a huge part of the team and of the group, both on the court and off the court, and leadership qualities as well. are really impressive out of those two. And then, getting Foose to come back or stay rather. So I think having some of the main guys back in and of itself is a major benefit for us as it relates to this specific question. As it relates to any specific events and things that we may or may not be doing, I mean, honestly, I'm learning a new thing about the rules and regulations every 5 minutes as I go through this. So I'm still carving my way out there. But, one of the huge differences from college to the NBA is the amount of practice time that you have leading up to the season. I laugh about when people talk about the NBA preseason. Like training camp. Training camp's basically 4 days and you're into the season because you got preseason games.
Right.
And once you start that, it's basically like the regular season. So, I mean, I'm sitting here staring like 6 weeks in the face of, build up for the season for an actual, training camp on steroids, right? And so I'm looking at that and looking at different creative things that we can do within camp to drive a competitive environment, to drive a galvanizing environment. And so, there's some different things that we're looking to do there to get creative so that time, one, doesn't become stale, and then two, it does allow us to sort of come together a little bit quicker.
Coach Kevin Young, new BYU basketball coach, joining us. You talk about retaining Hall and Saunders, and that was really great news because we've watched them play for 2 years now, and it's fun to watch guys develop and see them get better. As far as retaining them, did you have a particular pitch that you use as far as, I guess, you're recruiting them for the first time to the program in a sense they're being re-recruited?
I mean, those two guys were great because they were all about really how can you help me get better, and that's where their main focus was. And so, I was able to kind of break the film down for them and show them specific things that I've kind of learned in the NBA. Showed them examples of guys who I've worked with in the NBA that I think I can help, translate to their game and what we're doing here at BYU. That was a big part of it. And then style of play. How am I going to use them on both sides of the floor? They were like sponges during those situations, and I think that's ultimately what got them to join back up with us.
Coach, you've been doing this for a good while now. You're still a young guy, but you got started early, and you've been doing this for a long time. As you describe yourself when you make your presentations to Saunders and Hill Hall and all those other guys, and you'll be doing it multiple times a year for the next however many years you're coaching in college and at BYU, hopefully for years to come, what would you say are your specific strengths?
I think just communication, that's kind of how I was able to carve out a role in the NBA. Just, I try to be as prepared in studies as I can before I talk to any player or any team setting. And with that, being direct and being, taking a lot of the fluff out of it. I think guys are drawn to the truth. I think guys don't want you to waste their time, and guys want to know how you can help get them better. And so that's kind of what I gravitated to in the NBA is my style. It fits my personality, and I just try to stay true to kind of who I am, and that's kind of where I've been able to make headway with relationships, and that's how I've approached this as well.
How much do you lean on using the NBA as a recruiting tool, or do you think you'll use it as a recruiting tool? Because, I mean, that makes kids sit up straight when you talk about getting them to the NBA, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, quite a bit, just because that's who I am and that's what I know, right? And so I think I'd be fooling myself and the kids if I didn't talk about that, because that's what I know. And obviously, it goes well with what their goals are. All these young men are really good players, and they have dreams and ambitions to play in the NBA and at the next level. And so I think showing them how they would play in our system here at BYU, that's going to look very similar to an NBA system, not just in terms of a style of play, but just how we're running our operation, how we're staffing it, how we're attacking player development, how we're attacking weightlifting and strength training, and how we're attacking our mental performance and how we're attacking our nutrition. I mean, this is much bigger than just rolling the ball out, right? And so trying to take the blueprint that I've learned in the NBA, both good and bad, and when I say bad, I mean doing things that, maybe I won't do it that way, and really putting it out there for them to say, look, this is how they operate in the NBA. This is how we operate. You're going to be a beneficiary of that, and it's going to help you with your goals.
You talked about filling out that staff, Coach, and you got some guys on board. I understand you're in the process of maybe getting closer to an announcement on 3 other guys, and you had somebody down there at the Fathers and Sons camp, and we'll go about that. If you're not willing to name them, that's fine. They'll come out in time, and names are out there anyway. People can go figure it out if they want to. But you look at historically, so I moved up here in 93, and so I've been around for a good while, right? And first I covered Utah during their great runs for the Salt Lake Tribune to the Final Four and all that stuff. And I saw how they assembled the staff. And then I went on and did Steve Cleveland and Coach Dave Rose and their staffs. And a large portion of those staffs were people who had a connection to BYU, had a connection to the sponsoring faith. It looks like you're going maybe outside of that. Could you explain your philosophy in filling out your staff?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say going outside of that holistically. I mean, there's a handful of guys, obviously myself included, who are members of the sponsoring faith, and that's important given, obviously what this university stands for, and a lot of our players share that background. So trying to strike a balance between that and then just, good basketball coaches, regardless of, what faith they are, and people that are good people, right? I've vetted these people quite a bit. That's something that I'm really big on. I didn't want to rush and hire any of the wrong people just to get people in these offices to start doing the work. I really wanted to take my time. I have a large network of people that I can, pull from, just given my experience. And so the guys that I've selected are guys that have really two things. One, the first thing is just, are they a good basketball coach, and what are their experiences as a basketball coach? And then number 2 is what's their recruiting expertise. So every guy that I've brought on staff, as you said, those will hopefully get announced soon. Every one of them has a unique recruiting base, and that was really important. And then the last thing I would say there is the reason I hired Burgess and Dunson as my first couple guys was to get guys in here that could help me navigate the college landscape, and they've been A-pluses, as well as Doug Stewart, in terms of holding my hand with all the NCAA and the grassroots stuff here in the early days.
Has life settled down for you yet?
No. No, it hasn't. I mean, we're getting there. We're getting there. I feel like every day we're getting a lot more done and a lot more accomplished, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
In the NBA, you would obviously know this more than I would. It seems like every organization has scouts all over the planet because the game is really expanded now, and no matter where you're from, you have the opportunity to be seen, right? Any European country, South America, you name it. Then we've seen guys come over to the NBA, and it's no big surprise anymore when the foreign guy comes in and is not just a role player, he actually ends up as a star. And we're seeing that, obviously, with Dallas and Boston, NBA Finals guys. Then they have players who play those roles. So you may have been exposed, or people who've been exposed to somebody who's wherever they might be. And where I'm going with this is I'm wondering how much of that exposure that you've had to kids who are in Euro leagues or coming up through the ranks overseas can actually help you, get you maybe a little bit of a jump start on recruiting going forward.
No, it's big. It's big. It's, coming up the way I did in the pro game, I didn't just jump into the NBA, even on the pro side, right? I was in the G League, even the D League. I'm that old for 9 years, right? And so a lot of the guys that I jumped in with, climbed the ladder kind of simultaneously as I did. Like a lot of my friends are directors of scouting or assistant GMs or GMs or head coaches, right? And so with the network of people I know in the NBA, I'm getting hit up quite a bit from just different people, or if I find out about a player, I make one call and I can get any type of information that I want, and that's just years of relationships, years of like authentic friendships that I can draw upon, and so that's really surprised me, honestly, in terms of how much that stuff would be helpful as I made the jump. I thought it would be. I've been surprised about the similarities in terms of just a network for me where I can draw on.
That's great.
One thing. Yeah, that's really been helpful.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought that's why I needed to ask that question, because it seemed to me it would be obvious. Well, Coach, before you let you go, my wife's a Phoenix native. I grew up there. How appreciative are you going to be that the days coming forward of 115 are gone?
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Even just driving in this morning, man, it's just such a beautiful, this time of year in Utah is so amazing with the sun hitting the mountains, and it's just, like you said, it's not sweltering hot outside, and, definitely looking forward to that.
Well, thanks for your time, Coach. We know you're very much busy, and we appreciate it, and we look forward to watching you progress along your first season at BYU this season.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Okay, that is Kevin Young, the new BYU men's basketball coach. BYU fans, are you fired up? Yeah. Well, you should be. We'll elaborate on that next. Coming up at the top of the hour, we're talking to another Phoenix guy. It's all Phoenix radio all the time. Pablo Mastrioni will join us as the head coach of the RSL team. We're back in action tomorrow night. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.